Hello, my friends. This is part 8 in a series of videos on evidence-based practice versus science. And what we understand now is that vibrational astrology is an evidence-based practice. We understand what an evidence-based practice is, and we understand that a theoretical framework is a very important part of an evidence-based practice, and that very fortunately, we're very lucky that we have a very comprehensive an elegant theoretical framework for astrology, and we're up to the 9th component of the theoretical framework for astrology. And the 9th component, and again, I just numbered these in this order. That all these components are interconnected. I just separated them out this way. And what we can think of as the 9th component is that every astrological variable, remember the word variable means anything that varies. So planets go through zodiac signs. What sign a planet is in is a variable. Planets make different aspects. They may be square or trine, different configurations. It's a variable because it's changing all the time. It's different for different people. Every astrological variable does one thing. Whoa. This is a radical idea in vibrational astrology. Really radical. Let's take zodiac sign, take Taurus. We associate Taurus with money, with being practical, with being physical, with being sensual. There's so many qualities to Taurus. How would we reduce all of that to one process? If we did that, wouldn't we lose all of the subtlety and complexity and richness of the sign? Actually, we don't. Amazingly, we don't. Just like we don't lose all the richness of music by understanding that music is composed of 12 notes in different scales. Out of very simple things, an incredibly rich reality develops. Everything in astrology is an energetic process. Taurus is an energetic process. And that energetic process has many ways that it can manifest depending on circumstances. So the manifestations are outcomes or expressions of the energetic process. Now this is the important thing. We are never certain what the outcome is. Everybody agrees about this. Is Taurus going to be more stubborn, more sensual? What aspects of Taurus will come out? What parts of the archetypal themes will come out? Modern astrologers don't know. I also don't know. And I agree. In vibrational astrology, we agree that there are many archetypal themes and qualities that tend to come out, but they're more likely to happen. It's more likely that Taurus is practical, physically oriented, and sensual than other signs. All of that is true. We're not disagreeing. But what we're saying is that in addition to that, this is not in place of, but in addition to that, is that there is an energetic process that's always true. There's something about Taurus that's always true. And it's underlying those qualities and those archetypal stories and those personality traits. And that energetic process, again, it's always true. This is fantastic because it means there's something that we can interpret that is not so fuzzy, that's clearer. And we will learn what it is about Taurus that's always true. I'm not going to get into it here because we just want to discuss the theoretical framework. We'll get into all those details. But there is something, and it's supported by data. It works beautifully when you're with your clients. It's amazing, and you can see how all of these expressions are born out of it. Now, dropping the habit of interpreting astrology by associations that you have with a planet or a zodiac sign or an aspect and searching for the typical correlations is often difficult, especially for experienced astrologers. So if you're an experienced astrologer and you're used to looking at it and you say, oh, you have, a stellium, a lot of planets in Cancer, and your feelings are easily hurt, and, your family is very important to you, and you have a lot of planets in Leo, and you tend to be proud, and etc. You have a lot of planets in Virgo, so you're very picky. Dropping that habit to think about what is it that's really in Leo that tends to make Leo so dramatic and so self-absorbed. What is it? There's something in Virgo that tends to make it picky and critical. That's why some people with Virgo stelliums are not as picky and critical as others. But there's a function that produces the tendency, the likelihood of being picky and fussy, but doesn't have to. So dropping that habit of assuming that Leo is going to be proud. Leo is not always proud. Virgo is not always fussy with other people. Taurus is not always materialistic. And it's not just because you have to look at the whole chart. Yes, you have to look at the whole chart, but even after you look at the whole chart, it can still not be true. So, dropping that habit of jumping right to the manifestation can be difficult for some people. That's why sometimes people that are not as experienced in astrology are able to advance quickly in vibrational astrology because they can go right to the heart of it. So, on the other hand, if you're experienced in astrology, you know about all of the different ways that these themes can manifest and develop. So there's advantages and disadvantages to being an experienced astrologer when you enter into vibrational astrology. So the associations and archetypes are important. What you learn should not be forgotten, but it needs to be put in perspective. There is something else more fundamental and more reliable, the underlying vibration and the purpose and quality of the vibration. That's what's more fundamental, more consistent, and always true. Astrology is the study of energy dynamics and processes, not static qualities. So sometimes people say that the planets are what's happening, the aspects are how they're happening, the houses are where. We do not use that in vibrational astrology. Everything is a vibration, everything is a dynamic, and we're analyzing those motivations and those dynamics. Okay, now, last thing we want to discuss is not the astrology so much, but is the nature of a human being, because this integrates in with our understanding of astrology. And I have a few slides about this. First point I want to make about the nature of humans, us, is where do our thoughts come from? And our assumption, our premise that helps us with our chart interpretation, even though it may seem unrelated right now, is that thoughts are not generated by the brain. The brain is like a radio receiver that receives thoughts. So it's very much like a radio. If you have a physical radio and you break the radio, you take a hammer to it and you just break it, it no longer works, does the radio station disappear? No, the radio station's still there. You just don't have a radio to pick up those sound waves. So the electromagnetic spectrum waves, you don't have the mechanism to pick it up. So intelligence is there, whether you have a brain or not. Intelligence, thought, exists. It's carried through vibrations, and our brains pick it up. And intelligence is not restricted to the brain, and it's not restricted to conscious human thought. So there's all kinds of intelligence, of information processing. And you can think of a person better as an information processor. But the word information here has a broad meaning. Information can be logical, it can be emotional, it can have many different qualities, and it can be difficult to put into words what some of these kinds of information are. So an artist, a musician, are processing information. They're processing feelings, thoughts, impressions, ideas, associations, intuitions. Those are all kinds of, quote, information that we process. So a human being is dynamic and changing. We are not static. Our static traits, like if I say I'm an introvert. Are you an introvert or an extrovert? I'm mostly introverted. My physical traits are static. How tall are you? Oh, I'm very tall. I'm very short. That's static. Your weight could change, but your height, once you reach adulthood, is not going to change. So there are, not significantly usually. So some of our physical traits are static, and some of our personality traits and our talents seem static. But what they really are they are habits. They are pathways through which the energy flows. So what a person is pathways of information. That's what they are. And the grooves and the habits of how that information is processed are so deep, so powerful, they feel like they're static and they are unchanging. But it's only because those habits are deep and clear. I hope you get the feeling of this. It's important to understand because all of vibrational astrology is about energy flow. And people are about energy flow. And sometimes in astrology, especially in some of the ancient forms of astrology, they're treating people like things. Like we'll say, you are this way. You are angry. You are this. No, there's an energy flow and that energy flow has a purpose and a function, and it does have certain talents. It has certain capabilities. And it is true that certain people have greater potential to excel. In fact, that's one of the things we can do in vibrational astrology. We can see where people have a potential to excel, often very easily. So yes, there are different capabilities, different competencies, different directions based on how that energy wants to flow. The important thing here is that it's about energy flow. It's not about just descriptors and saying, oh, you are this. Oh, you have a lot of Leo. You are proud. We're not saying so much you are. We're saying that you have a certain motivation, a certain interest with certain talents, capabilities. Once we identify those, we're speaking to the heart of what the astrology does. Now also, we identify with our bodies. Why do we identify with our bodies? Because we feel them directly. If I break my arm, wow, that's huge. I can feel everything that happens to my body. But it's really just a matter that my sensitivity is connected to my physical body. Everything is about information flow, receiving data, you might call it, or information, impressions, emotions, and then how we channel that, what we do with it, how we form things. So we form fixed images of personality traits as a convenience. So it is helpful to say he's very introverted. No problem with that. I'm not saying you can't use that language. Of course use it. Like I'm introverted most of the time. And other times I'm like a party animal. But, we all have our ways that we function. And there's no problem with that. It's convenient and it's true. It's just the important point behind it is that there is no fixed identity. That's the critical thing. There is no fixed identity. There are only patterns of energy flow. There is what we attach ourselves to and what we choose based on our deepest convictions and our ability to access them. There are very similar ideas for example, from Paramahansa Yogananda, where he describes life as a picture show and we're characters in it. We are in a picture show. We are channels of energy, and based on what's deeply important to us and our life experiences and how we respond to our life experiences, we form a character in the play. Here's a quote from Nikola Tesla. He says, "We are just waves in time and space, changing continuously, and the illusion of individuality is produced through the concatenation of the rapidly succeeding phases of existence. What we define as likeness is merely the result of the symmetrical arrangement of molecules which compose our body." Wow. Oh my God. Yow. We cannot say it any better than that. We are just waves in time and space changing continuously. This is the theoretical framework of vibrational astrology. There's an illusion of individuality. There are other people talking about this. The physicist David Bohm, B-O-H-M, lovely to read what he says, very, very similar ideas. Produced through the concatenation of the rapidly succeeding phases of existence. So all of these wave patterns all entering into us and forming our energy flow. So people have different ingrained patterns of energy flow. That's what we're talking about. That's what we're dealing with in vibrational astrology. There is no single essential center from which all of these habits emanate. So sometimes we kind of make people into material things, like we would describe a car. The car is red and so on. Those traits are just what's being exhibited as a result of the habits that the person has. And here's a very important thing in vibrational astrology. Everyone exhibits contradictory qualities, contradictory behaviors, contradictory traits, and even contradictory talents. So when you say this person is gifted in this, they can be gifted in some ways, they can have problems in other ways, because they're all just different energy circuits and energy flow. And we can have certain traits in one environment and different traits in another environment. People are very complex. So one of the things in vibrational astrology is we can see that somebody who is the most despicable person, a serial murderer, might be very kind to his pet or his spouse. It's like, what's going on here? They're different circuits. So we're not describing like a fixed thing with characteristics. We're describing the different kinds of energy flow. And people can turn on and turn off different circuits in amazingly different ways that seem to contradict each other. So the tendency to give a characterization of a person as good, honest, you might say he's sincere, she's sensitive, he's hypocritical or introverted. They're only descriptions of highly repeated patterns of thought and behavior. And people have multiple circuits, multiple patterns, and the patterns can just be independent of each other. Focused, now here's an interesting thing. When you're involved in a focused activity, like suppose you're an athlete and you're practicing, tennis all day, or, you're studying, you're playing piano and studying, or you're deeply engrossed in a book. When you have this focused activity of any kind, it's a fascinating phenomenon, and it's very powerful, because what's happening when you're so engrossed in a book or a movie or practicing something is you've turned off, or not completely off, but you've minimized other inputs. It's like tuning into one radio station and tuning out all of the others. So this is important in vibrational astrology, that the individual has the power to choose which energy circuits are available to them, to choose among them and focus on them. So the individual has tremendous choice and freedom, or seemingly freedom, to decide how to orchestrate their lives. You do not have to channel every single circuit that is available to you. So as we learn the vibrational astrology, we will see these energy patterns, these potentials that are there. They never go away, even if you don't give a lot of attention to them. But you cannot do them all. We have more potential than we can express. So that's what we're working with as vibrational astrologers. And we all want our clients to evolve. We want everybody to evolve. How do we evolve? We evolve by processing information for healthy and constructive results, and interconnecting our awareness to the ocean of life that we are part of. So we try to get our clients to express their unique potential in the highest possible way. And there's a secondary thing, which is to express it in a higher way means that you express it within the context of life and that everything is interconnected. So your astrology chart builds and develops through its interaction with other people. So we're all centers of consciousness, and all those centers of consciousness are all interacting and interweaving. So we want the person to be highly functional within their center of consciousness and within the way that their center of consciousness interacts with everything else. When I say center of consciousness, what I mean is I'm aware of what I'm thinking. I'm not aware of directly of what you're thinking. I can't change what you're saying directly. We all have control of our own attention. And each one of us with our own attention, each one of us is interacting as an organism. People are connected almost like we are cells in a larger body. So we want the larger body of the person to be functioning well also. Our individuality is somewhat illusory. So also here's a quote from Einstein. A human being is a part of the whole called by us universe. A part limited in time and space. He experiences himself, his thoughts and feelings as something separated from the rest, a kind of optical illusion of his consciousness. This delusion is a kind of prison for us, restricting us to our personal desires and to affection for a few persons nearest to us. Our task must be to free ourselves from this prison by widening our circle of compassion to embrace all living creatures and the whole of nature in its beauty. Wow. These quotes are amazing. Okay, so we experience our thoughts and feelings as something separated, which is a kind of delusion, optical delusion. And this delusion is a prison for us. So part of the astrological consultation is to help the person feel connected, feel a part of the larger world in which they live. Every time you pursue an art, you pursue music, you pursue science, you pursue sports, you're interacting, you're connecting, you're sharing, you're being a part of something larger than yourself. Some people think, why would I study history? It's not affecting me. It's not affecting you and your little body, but you're actually a part of all of history. Your body has evolved over millions of years. Everybody's a part of everything. It is part of you. And to the extent you don't realize that, you're living in an optical delusion of consciousness. It's amazing how beautifully Einstein states this. So anyway, that's part of what a person is, and what vibrational astrology is all consistent. We're all part of this cosmic energy flow and that's coming through us and has a purpose. It has a meaning. It has a desire. So we want that desire of the cosmos to be fulfilled through each person. And in order to do that, the person has to find their place in the larger context in the universe. And just to wrap this up, I think this might be my last slide. Oh no, we have one more thing. My last slide regarding the theoretical framework, which is this. Just for fun, 2 quotes from Paramahansa Yogananda's book, Cosmic Chants. Life is sweet and death a dream when thy song flows through me. So our spiritual aspirations and our fulfillment in life is a direct result of what song flows through us. And vibration, our connection to our vibrations is not just for our immediate personal fulfillment. It's for our lives in their totality. And another one is, I am the bubble, make me the sea. Very similar to what Einstein and Tesla said. To not be limited by what did Einstein call it? I always love this. The optical delusion of consciousness, of being in this prison. And this is another one from the book of John in the Old Testament, first statement in the book of John. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. We could substitute for the word, substitute for word, vibration. And we could call vibrational astrology word astrology. Because what is a word? A word is a vibration. It's a sound. It's a sound that has meaning and purpose. Right? Word. If we said in the beginning was vibration, that sounds kind of empty, kind of hollow. But a vibration with meaning and purpose and depth. The vibrations in vibrational astrology are like words. They're not just empty, hollow sounds. They are like words. Okay. And they originate in higher dimensions and can be thought of as having a spiritual origin. Okay, that's it for now. We'll finish this up in one more video on how we do evidence and evidence-based astrology. Thank you very much, my friends. God bless. Namaste.